Have you ever wondered how successful people choose the right path? The path that, when you see it, you may have tried many times yourself, but every time you gave up. Have you ever asked yourself, what are your dreams? What stirs in your heart? What do you want to do? What kind of thinking do you carry? If not, let me tell you this. One good thought has the power to change your entire life. This is the story of a man who had nothing. No education, no support, no shortcuts, no mercy, only hard work. Sometimes his hands would bleed, sometimes his back would break with pain. But he never stopped, because stopping meant sleeping with hunger, a dream that never reached his lips. People didn't know that inside this quiet young man burned a fierce dream. Life placed such a heavy burden of responsibilities on his shoulders that he was not ready for it. Perhaps life doesn't ask for permission. It takes a person through every difficult turn. Maybe it is one right thought and one right decision that makes a person successful. Stay with me till the end, because it's possible that a single thought of yours could change your entire life. In a forest lived a boy who survived by cutting wood. Barely 20 years old, he lived on the edge of a dense, silent forest. The villagers didn't know him by a name. They knew him by only one identity, the woodcutter. People saw only an axe in his hand. A small house, big responsibilities. His home was made of mud, a broken roof, cracked walls, and silence inside. A silence that settled in the day his parents passed away, one after another. Every day he picked up his old axe, wore his torn shoes, and quietly walked toward the forest. He didn't go to cut wood because he liked it, but because hunger does not wait for dreams. The forest was his world. The forest was dark, deep, and dangerous. Tall trees stood like silent witnesses, watching him as he swung his axe again and again. Thak, thak. Every strike told the story of his life. When he grew tired and sat on a stone, looking at the sky through the trees, he imagined another life. A life where he was not just a poor woodcutter, where his hands could create something more, where his name meant something. But the dreams of a poor man are often dangerous. They make reality even more painful, so he kept his dreams silent. The villagers' bitter smiles. In the evening, when he returned to the village after selling wood, the looks were always the same, some with pity, some with mockery. He was born just to cut wood. These words cut deeper than the axe. He would smile, lower his gaze, and go home. Because he had learned early, fighting fate wastes the strength needed to survive. An evening different from the rest. One evening the forest felt strange. The wind was strong, the birds were silent, and the sun set earlier than usual. When he struck an old, thick tree, his foot slipped. He fell hard. The axe flew from his hand and landed near the roots of the tree. A sharp pain shot through his leg. He couldn't get up immediately. Lying on the ground, he stared at the sky and softly said, "Is this all my life is?" At that moment, there was no answer. A stranger in the forest. Suddenly, he heard footsteps, slow, dignified. An old man stood before him with a long beard and calm eyes. Gently, the old man said, "You cut trees every day, but have you ever thought what this forest is trying to teach you?" The young man remained silent. No one had ever spoken to him like this before. Words that touched the soul. The forest's silence now felt heavy. The wind sounded like sighs from a wounded heart. The young man still lay on the ground, his leg in pain, but the pain in his heart far deeper. The old man sat beside him. Moments passed without a word, yet so much was felt. Then the old man said, "Son, your eyes hold not just fatigue, but questions. Questions buried for years." The young man's eyes filled with tears. Softly he said, "I work hard every day, yet nothing changes. I cut trees, I cut away my youth, but fate stays the same." His voice trembled. Does hard work always pay off? Or are some people born just to lose? He had asked this question for the first time in his life. The old man smiled and looked toward the forest. "Look at that tree," he pointed to a strong tree. "It didn't grow tall in one day. It faced storms, endured heat, withstood rain, and only then did it stand firm." He paused, then said, "The difference is, the tree knows why it stands." A sentence that sank deep into the heart. The young man asked, startled, "And me? I don't know anything." The old man replied softly, "When a person is busy only surviving, he forgets the purpose of living." The word struck like an arrow. It felt as if someone had spoken aloud what was hidden inside him. Pain of the body, burden of the heart. The young man tried to stand, but cried out in pain. The old man rushed to support him. "See," the old man said, "when a person is wounded, he needs support. But you have never asked anyone for help." Tears streamed down the young man's face, because it was true. A hidden secret. The old man sat him against a tree trunk and took a small piece of wood from his pocket. It was not ordinary wood. It had beautiful carvings. The young man was amazed. "I was once a woodcutter too," the old man said, "but instead of cutting wood, I learned to understand it." Eyes began to open. "Not every piece of wood is meant to be burned," the old man said gently. "Some wood is meant to build life." At those words, something inside the young man broke, and something was born. For the first time, he realized that perhaps he had been cutting the wrong thing. A question, a turning point. In a soft voice, he asked, "Is something else possible for me too?" The old man looked into his eyes and said, "Possibility always exists. A person just declares himself impossible." These words settled in his heart like hope. The darkness grew. Night spread. The forest became even quieter. The old man stood and said, "Tomorrow the sun will rise, and you will make a decision. That decision will either keep you where you are, or this forest will show you a new path." Saying this, the old man disappeared into the darkness. Alone, but changed. The young man sat there for a long time. His legs still hurt, but a new question had awakened in his heart. What if, instead of cutting wood, I begin carving my destiny? That question was no longer just a question. It was a beginning. A sleepless night. The young man could not sleep all night. The forest's silence was no longer an enemy. It had become a question. With every breath, the old man's words echoed in his heart. Not every piece of wood is meant to be burned. The sun rises, but the same life. Morning came, and the forest lit up, but in the young man's heart was a strange darkness. He stood up limping, picked up his axe, but today its weight felt unusual, as if it was not just iron, but the burden of his entire life. He stopped. For the first time, he did not strike the tree. He placed the axe on the ground. This was not an ordinary act. It was the biggest refusal of his life. He knew today he would not cut wood. Today he would not earn money. Today he would feel hunger. But today he did not want to lie to himself. He returned to the village empty-handed. People were surprised. "Didn't bring any wood today," one asked with a mocking smile. Another said, "Looks like the woodcutter is tired." Laughter echoed. Every laugh fell on his heart like a whip. His mother's memory, tears in his eyes. When he reached home, he sat by the door. Before his eyes appeared his mother's face, the mother who used to say, "Son, hard work never goes to waste. It just takes time." Tears flowed from his eyes. For the first time, he cried loudly, because even strong people sometimes break. That day, the stove was not lit. There was fire in his stomach, but in his heart a stubborn resolve was burning. "I will not go back to a life that never let me live." At night, he slept hungry, but that night his soul was awake. The next day, he headed toward the forest, but not with an axe. He kept looking at the piece of wood given by the old man. He picked up a broken knife and placed his hand on the wood. The first cut was clumsy. The second was even worse. His hands were trembling. His heart was afraid, but he did not stop. Blood, sweat, and hope. His finger was cut. Blood flowed. He smiled. "This pain is different," he said to himself. "This pain was for a dream." Days passed. During the day, he cut a little wood just to survive, and at night, he carved the wood. The exhaustion kept increasing, but in his eyes, a sparkle began to appear. People started laughing. "A wooden toy, will that fill your stomach?" Someone said, "He's gone crazy." But now those words did not carry the same poison, because now his heart had a purpose. That day, he looked at the sky and said, "If this path is wrong, stop me now. And if it is right, don't take away my courage." A gentle breeze blew as if someone had heard his prayer. Some days passed in silence. During the day, the young man cut a little wood, dragging life along, and at night he carved his dream. Small wooden toys, simple patterns, unfinished shapes. No praise, no buyers, just belief. One morning, there was an unusual commotion in the village. People were shouting to each other, "People have come from the city. There's going to be a fair. They're looking for craftsmen." The young man's heart pounded. Craftsman. This word he had never used for himself. He held the toy in his hand and stood there for a long time. His heart said, "Go." Who knows, this might be the chance. But his fearful mind said, "They will laugh. They will humiliate you. They will break you." He closed his eyes. His mother's voice echoed again. "When opportunity knocks, don't hide in fear, open the door." The step that changes a life. He walked toward the fair, in his hand a small wooden toy. It was his wealth, it was his identity, it was his courage. People's eyes fell on him. Some looked, some turned away. Suddenly, one man stopped, a question, which was also a test. The man was a city merchant. Expensive clothes, harsh tone. "Did you make this?" The young man's throat went dry. Yes." "Are you here to sell it?" At that moment, he felt as if his entire life was trapped in this one answer. "No, I just wanted to show it." Silence and a decision. The merchant took the toy in his hand. He examined it carefully, touched it with his fingers. Time seemed to stop. Then he said, "It's not perfect, but it has a soul." The young man's eyes filled with tears. For the first time, someone had truly seen his work. The merchant said, "Come to the city with me. Learn. Work. If you prove yourself, you will not remain just a woodcutter." Hearing these words, the young man's legs trembled. It was an opportunity that doesn't come often. There was a price too. The merchant said one last thing. "But remember, this path will not be easy. There will be no turning back." The young man looked toward the village, the same streets, the same humiliation, the same poverty. Then he looked up at the sky and quietly said, "I am ready." Tears, but not of fear. He returned home, sat in front of his mother's picture. "Pray for me, Mother. I am going to make my own destiny." Tears flowed from his eyes, but there was no fear in them. There was hope. The night before leaving for the city, the young man's heart was restless. Sleep was miles away from his eyes. He felt as if the forest was calling him. He slowly walked along the same path where he had first met the old man. The forest was silent, yet familiar. The trees were the same, the air was the same. But today he was not afraid. He stopped by an old tree and spoke in a soft voice. "If you can hear me, come to me once more." Silence. Then, the sound of footsteps, the same old man, the same calm eyes. The old man emerged from the shadows, the young man's eyes filled with tears. "You, who are you?" he asked in a trembling voice. The old man smiled. "The same one you could become." The young man was startled. The old man said, "I too used to cut wood in this forest. Poverty, humiliation, and hunger. I've seen it all. But one day, instead of cutting trees, I began to carve myself." A shiver ran through the young man's body. The old man continued, "I am the same merchant who wants to take you to the city." Hearing this, the young man's legs shook. Whoa, what?" The old man smiled. "I first wanted to judge you as a human. A craftsman came later. The purpose of the test, if I had told you the truth from the start, you might have seen me as just an opportunity, not a teacher. I wanted to see if there was something in you besides hunger." Tears began to flow from the young man's eyes. The old man spoke softly. "Remember, I said not every piece of wood is meant to be burned. Some woods become lamps, some become humans. They pave the way for others. Bend, but do not be weak." The young man touched the old man's feet. You taught me to believe in myself." The old man immediately held his hand. "No, son, I didn't teach you anything. I only showed you what was already inside you." A soft light spread across the sky. The old man said, "Now it's time. The city awaits you. But remember, if ever pride comes, return to this forest." The young man returned, the same body, but not the same person. He was no longer a woodcutter. He was the craftsman of his own destiny. The city lights were harsh, so bright that the stars could not be seen. For the young man, this light was both new and frightening. Noise everywhere, competition everywhere, better people everywhere. Work began. From morning till night, his hands kept moving. No one here asked where he came from. Here, only work spoke. At first, the lines of his hands lagged behind others. Mistakes were made, scolding came, laughter followed. One day, the owner said in a stern tone, "There are no emotions here, only standards matter." That night, he stayed awake for a long time. After a few months, his work began to improve. People stopped to watch. His name began to be spoken. A small pride rose in his heart. He thought, "I am no longer the one who fell in the forest." This thought was silent, but dangerous. Big order came. This was an opportunity that could change his life. He considered himself strong enough alone. He asked for no help. He rushed. He was careless. And the wood broke. Expensive, rare wood. Silence filled the room. One sentence brought him to the ground. The owner's voice came, "You didn't just break the wood. You broke trust." The young man's heart sank. This was the moment when everything was once again at risk. That very night, he went out alone. The forest appeared before his eyes. His mother's voice, the old man's advice, and the memory of his first hunger. Tears flowed from his eyes. Suddenly, the old man's words came to mind. Pride is the axe that a person swings at their own roots. He sat on the ground. For the first time, he said to himself, "I am still a learner, not yet at my destination." The next day, he stood before the owner, eyes downcast, voice sincere. "The mistake is mine. If you allow, I want to learn again." Silence filled the room. Then the owner said, "This answer is not from a defeated person." He was not fired, but he was sent back to the first day. The same strictness, the same hard work, but now his heart was softer. Tears that were not weakness. That night he cried, but these tears were not for failure. They were tears of gratitude. One day he made a decision. "I will return to the forest where it all began." People were surprised. "The successful man is going back." The young man smiled and said, "Yes, but I want to be who I truly am." The first light of the forest, as he walked among the trees, every tree, every leaf, felt like life itself to him. He stopped at the place where he first met the old man and softly said, "I have returned for my true identity." An example for the people. The villagers now saw him not just as a woodcutter, but as a human being who could change his destiny through hard work, patience, and dreams. He stood there silent, but his eyes shone with light. The young man learned the greatest lesson. Success is not just fame or wealth. Success is when a person recognizes the courage, patience, and faith within themselves. The greatest victory is won by conquering the silent battles of the heart. One moment that touches the soul. At night he sat under a tree. The breeze was gentle, the moonlight soft, and somewhere in the distance the lake whispered. He laid down his axe and quietly said, "Thank you, life, for teaching me through my falls, and thank you, sky, for giving me the opportunity to rise. Now I am who I have always wanted to be." His eyes were moist, but these tears were not of fear or failure. They were tears of gratitude for life. This story is not just about a woodcutter. It is the story of dreams, hard work, patience, and never giving up. A young boy, despite poverty, humiliation, fear, and failure, recognized the light within his heart and carved his own destiny. Thank you for listening to this story. Stay connected with us and wait for the next video.